Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome to another edition of Inside Arsenal, where we've got a football match to talk about for the first time in a long time. Obviously, there was that Nuremberg friendly, I know, but this one felt a little bit more competitive. It feels like it's getting a little bit more serious ahead of the new season. Arsenal kicking off their USA tour last night against the MLS All-Stars, and they kicked it off in some style as well. 5-0 victory against the best the MLS has to offer. That was actually a new, well, it was setting, equaling a record, of the highest goals ever scored by an international team against the MLS All-Stars. So a perfect way to kick off the US tour. Obviously going to be two more difficult tests to come in the face of Manchester United and Barcelona over the next week or so. But this was a very good start to the US tour in a packed out stadium at Audi Field in Washington, full of Arsenal fans. Atmosphere sounded great, and some really, really good goals as well. So all in all, it was a very nice start to proceedings for Arsenal. 2-0 up at half-time. Gabriel Jesus and Leandro Trossard with two absolute beauties in the first half. Really, really good goals. And yeah, three more after the break. Jorginho with a penalty. Gabriel Martinelli from a brilliant Martin Odegaard pass, and Kai Havertz as well, scoring his first goal for the club, albeit in a friendly, so it doesn't count. But it was a really nice finish for him, and good to silence a few idiots, to be fair, who had been getting on his back. Mainly not Arsenal fans. They're actually from fans from other clubs, because he didn't manage to score a goal in one of the skills challenge games the night before. And as usual, social media being what it is, Twitter being what it is, he started getting a fair bit of flack for it, but he answered it with a really, really good goal last night. So there's a team. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it in front of you right now. Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, Jorginho, Trossard, Vieira, Saka, Nketiah, and Jesus. That was the starting 11 for Arsenal. And you saw there was lots of changes in the second half. Karl Hein came in goal. Austin Trusty came on. Timber made his debut. Tomiyasu, Tierney, Rice, Martinelli, Marquinhos, Havertz, Odegaard, Balogun, all coming off in the second half. Three subs that weren't used were Runarsson, Holding, and Cozier Dubry. So yeah, really good showing for Arsenal. Gave the fans in the stadium, which that was just full of Arsenal fans. Shows how big the support is. A real treat. The first two goals from Jesus and Trossard, both set up by Bukayo Saka, who was named MVP after the game for man of the match. Really, really good goals. Jesus' chip was absolutely exquisite, and Trossard's strike as well. Really, really good from outside the area, drilling one in. So unlucky he didn't score at least sort of 3 or 4 of those goals in the second half of last season. He kept hitting the woodwork with those type of shots for Arsenal. I remember he did it in that game against Southampton in the last minute, wasn't it? When it was Arsenal come back to 3-3, and he was so close to winning it in that game. He hit the post again, I think, against Chelsea. He had his goal ruled out against Leicester with a similar sort of strike. Really unlucky not to get a fair few goals last season. I think he'll score plenty for Arsenal this season, and that was a really, really nice strike. Both times the goals came from Saka getting away down the right. Jesus' goal came from a really wicked pass by Jorginho for Saka to run onto. And yeah, really impressive goals. And then Jorginho scored a penalty. I think Arsenal got a penalty within 15 seconds of the second half starting for handball. Jorginho's taking it and scoring it like he always does with that hop, skip, and a jump. Martinelli from, like I said, brilliant pass from Odegaard to send him away, and really lovely composed finish from Martinelli. And then Havertz scoring the 5th goal late on from a Marquinhos cross. He took it down on his chest and thumped in a left-footed half volley to make it 5-0 and wrap up what was a really, really good evening for Arsenal. The debutants all came on in that second half. Timber, Rice, Havertz, of course. And they all impressed, which was good to see. Mikel Arteta speaking after the game, he said it was a great occasion and a great atmosphere. It was great to see so many Arsenal supporters filling the stadium. We had some great moments in the game and some moments, especially in the first half, that weren't great, but we're still very early in pre-season, and it was great to see some debuts with Jurrien, Austin, and Declan, obviously, and I was really pleased in the end with the result. A bit more here from Mikel Arteta, which I thought was some quite interesting comments from him. He talked about Timber, who came on. Timber made a big impact when he came on. If you haven't seen him yet, have a look on Twitter. You'll find some good sort of compilation videos of what Timber did. And he was all over the pitch, he's popping up on the left-hand side. He was on the right. He was at right back. He was in central areas, just absolutely everywhere. Really, really composed on the ball. And that's what Mikel said about him. He said, I think you've seen tonight that he's a really versatile player. He gives you the capacity to invert, to occupy different spaces. He's so comfortable in the ball in that phase. And he's also got this aggression in the duels and that dynamism that I really like about him. You saw from the first action, he went and won the ball straight away on that duel and he was ready to go. He's been like that in the last few days. He's playing really well with the team. And I think he's going to be really important player for us. So yeah, really promising sort of first glimpse of Jurrien Timber in that game against the All-Stars. And Kai Havertz as well, and being able to adapt to play in different positions. Mikel said, he said, I think, again, it's one of the main qualities he has. He gives us something very different with his quality and his size as well. When you have to beat the press, for example, and use him as a target man. So we will see for now. He's playing in the attacking midfield position, but I'm sure throughout the season and throughout games as well, we're going to have the options to play him in different positions. And that's what Kai Havertz does, I think. And it's something that Arsenal needed in that second half of last season. We saw how much success Manchester City had when Pep basically changed his system for that run in. He went direct. He cut out the press, a lot of the press. He certainly did it in the match against Arsenal. It was just get the ball up to Haaland, let him win it with his back to goal and get the runners going behind him. And that was an option Arsenal didn't really have. It was all very predictable. You kind of knew how Arsenal were going to play. Most of the times it worked because Arsenal, which was very, very good last season, but when it didn't, there wasn't that option to change things up, to make things a little bit unpredictable. And I think Arsenal kind of paid the price for that a little bit. And the addition of Havertz will certainly give them that other option going forward. If you're not going to play him in that left 8 role, if you think we need someone higher up to hold the ball up in that number 9 position, that you can put Havertz there and then you can get everyone playing off him. And I think that'll be a real big benefit to Arsenal this season. And when Mikel was asked, whether there'll be more variety from his team this season. This is what he said. He said, we have to see, but the idea is to be more unpredictable every year and be more difficult for the opponents to stop and nullify what we want to do. That's what we have now, especially at the back end midfield options we have to open up the spaces. We have many more options than we did last year. And I think that's been such a crucial part of Arsenal's transfer business this summer. And I've touched on it before. I just think that all of the 3 players that they've brought in has just made them so much more unpredictable because they all give Mikel so many different options than he had last year. You've got Timber, who, if you want to play him as a right back, you can get that inverted right back role, something that Arsenal didn't really have last season because Ben White obviously basically plays like a proper fullback. He's on the overlap, did it very, very well. But Timber gives you another option. If you don't want to play that Ben White kind of fullback, you can bring in Timber, means you can overload in midfield. You can really probably wrestle control of a game a lot and dominate possession a lot more than previously. Declan Rice absolutely gives you so many more options because you can play him as a number 6 if you want, or you can play Partey as a number 6 and play Declan Rice as one of the number 8s. And again, then you can really sort of dominate, I would say, in the midfield areas, especially in those away games that I've touched on in recent videos. I think that'd be a really important ingredient. And then if you play Kai Havertz as 8, I think that just gives you a lot more unpredictability as well because of what Mikel touched on in those comments there. He's such a versatile player and he can offer so much more. He's very good technically, but he's also very good in the air and he can give you that aerial threat that just makes Arsenal just a slightly different animal, I would say, going forward. And I think that's been such a crucial part of the summer business this summer, is just making the team more unpredictable. Mikel would have sat down, he would have studied everything over what went wrong in those last couple of months of the season, where the team fell short in that run-in. And there's no doubt in my mind, looking at the transfer business that they have done, the key areas that they wanted to try and improve. And I think we're seeing that with the additions. And yeah, Mikel clearly very, very happy. And he quite rightly was very, very happy because that was a very good performance and a good outing from his side. Yeah, there was one little drawback. Leandro Trossard went off injured. Fingers crossed, it's nothing too serious. It looks like a sort of clash of knees, maybe extended his knee a little bit. It's the second game in a row he's had to go off. Actually, he had to do it against Nuremberg as well. So he's been a little bit unlucky so far in pre-season, Leandro Trossard. Fingers crossed it's all right. He didn't have to get stretched off or anything like that. He managed to walk off, which sometimes is a good sign, not always. I think we all remember that Tomiyasu walked off against Sporting Lisbon. Saliba walked off against Sporting. And we never saw them again in the season. Fingers crossed this isn't going to be like that. Mikel was asked about it after the game. He said he got a knock. And obviously we didn't want to take any risks at this stage. He had some pain. And we will see tomorrow. But I don't expect it to be anything big. fingers crossed that is the case because, as I said, I thought Trossard, his goal, I think he's got a big, big part to play this season. A lot of people looking at Arsenal when they're looking at the players who could make an impact, and a lot seem to be sort of glossing over Trossard, I think. But he was so important in the second half of the season. He made such a huge impact. And I still think he's got the ability to add a lot more goals to his game. As I said earlier, I thought it was very unlucky that he didn't end up with 5 or 6 goals last season for Arsenal after making that move in January. He quite easily could have had if he had a little bit more luck in front of goal. And, he's got the ability to score 10, 15 goals next season, no doubt about it for me. So fingers crossed that there is nothing too serious about that injury and we will see him again during the remainder of the tour. Okay, let's move on to some of your questions and comments now, shall we? This is one from Brian, which I thought I had to bring up because obviously yesterday I was talking to James Benj in yesterday's episode. Like, do we stay up for the game or not? I don't think I can. I have 2 young kids. I'm going to be up at 5:30, which I was. My son's storming into our bedroom at 5:30 to drag me downstairs. And yeah, so we were talking about that. And then, yeah, this is one from Brian. It says, spare for us. I tell you what, I had to look up Antipodian. That's probably the completely wrong pronunciation. I had to look up that word. I didn't realize it meant people from the sort of New Zealand, Australia type region who either sit up or wake up in the early hours of the morning many times throughout the Premier League season. I'd love to do it only once a year. I'm sure you would. And I have full respect for you. Don't worry about that, Brian. I lived in Australia for a year and I did it throughout the year, getting up to watch Arsenal games or basically staying up drinking in the bars of King's Cross in Sydney until the Arsenal game kicked off at about 3 a.m. each weekend. And yeah, I know it was very, very difficult and I have full respect for you guys for doing it. So yeah, well done for that. Here's one from Bogut4695 says, remember Andy Cole? We kept Kevin Campbell and we sold Cole, who became the league's best scorer. Now, this is no doubt in reference to Fowler and Balogun, which was a big topic in that discussion I had with James Benj of CBS yesterday in terms of what you do with Flo Balogun. It's always a big topic of discussion. He came on in the second half yesterday. Flo, he gave an interview to Apple TV after the game when he was asked again about his future. This is what he had to say. He said, my aim is to build on last season. I was away on loan. I wanted to make an impact and show people I can play at the level, and I felt like I did that. Me coming back here, I just want to earn my stripes and build on what I did last season. I'm just here in pre-season, just enjoying it. I try and not look into the future. I let my agent and my family handle those sorts of things. For sure, I'm happy being here. I'm just enjoying every minute. I'm just looking forward to the future. So that's what Fowler and Balogun had to say about his future after last night's game. And I get your point there, but I don't think everyone's necessarily Andy Cole. And, I think, again, going all the way back to that era with George Graham, when they decided to sell Andy Cole to Bristol City, it was at that point. Arsenal had Alan Smith as the number 9 that season. Around then, he'd won the Golden Boot twice when Arsenal won the league in 89-91. He had Kevin Campbell, he mentioned there, who was coming through, was an absolute superstar as a young player for Arsenal. Did so much, scored so many goals for the youth teams, like Andy Cole did, but also transferred that onto the first team pitch as well and played a really key part in Arsenal winning the title in 1991 and the Cup Winners' Cup later on, the FA Cup and the League Cup win in 93. So it's not like Kevin Campbell did badly for Arsenal. He did very, very well and had a lot of success, and so did Alan Smith. So sometimes you have to move young players on, because you just don't think they're going to get an opportunity. And that's what George Graham did with Andy Cole. He went on to have a fantastic career. But I don't necessarily look at that and think it was a mistake by Arsenal to sell Andy Cole at that point as a young player, because it just wasn't a very clear pathway for him. And, Arsenal went on and were very successful as well without Andy Cole. And so if they choose to sell Fowler Balogun and he goes on to be a superstar, so be it. Sometimes you just have to take these chances. You just never really know how things are going to go. Okay, right. Here's another one who's talking about Balogun. It was Dwayne. He said, people seem to be very unrealistic expectations, re a Balogun deal. If the club can get a big fee this summer, they're not going to get a sell on as well. If you get a big fee, the buyback will be similarly will be huge, very possibly not worth activating. Well, this is kind of what I was talking about yesterday, Dwayne, in that when I was talking about Arsenal potentially protecting themselves by getting a buyback clause. I think that's more of a factor if Arsenal sell to Inter Milan and have to accept a lower fee than they ideally want. I think if Arsenal sell Balogun to a Premier League club, I think getting a buyback clause will be very, very difficult, because they would expect a much bigger fee, much closer to the £50 million that they're after. And then it'll be much harder to potentially negotiate a decent buyback clause included on that. But I think if you're selling to Inter Milan, who I don't think will be able to get in and around the 50 million mark that Arsenal want, I think it might be closer to the sort of 35 million pound mark or something like that. I think that is when you're in a much stronger position to try and get a decent buyback clause included in any deal with Balogun. Sometimes you have to reach compromise and that sort of thing. And if Arsenal would look at that, then maybe that's when they can get a buyback clause. But I do agree with you that if you're selling, say, to a Premier League club, then it's probably going to be a lot harder to negotiate that type of deal. But we shall wait and see. Folarin Balogun's still very much an Arsenal player at the moment. Obviously, over in the US, he's got 2 more games to impress over there before coming back for the Emirates Cup and then the Community Shield. And I'm sure his future is going to be sorted pretty soon after they return, because I probably don't want it to drag on too much longer and want it sorted out one way or the other. And I think he probably wants it sorted out one way or the other as well, so he can sort of settle down and get ready for the new season. Okay, here's one I just wanted to answer from Crazy Tactics Dave, who said, Revolution, your book has a narrator, Gavin Osborne. What is the process of choosing a voice? How does it work? PS would have been happy with your voice. Yeah, a lot of you have said, I wish you were reading your book for the audio version, Charles, which I like that you think that. But, I mean, look, you listen to me all the time here, bumbling over my words, falling over my words. I think trying to read that book professionally, it would have taken forever, and I'm just not confident in myself to have done it very well. And Gavin is a professional. We chose him. We had a list of people to sort of pick through to listen to, and then went with a choice. And Gavin's, he's done it previously with other books. He's a professional. I'm not, and that was why I decided to choose him. So that was the process. Crazy Tactics Dave, I had sort of a list of people that the publishers have worked with before that they sent over. I could listen to them. I could make my choice. And I thought Gavin was good. He sounded very professional, very clear. He's going to make it very easy to understand. And that's why I went with him. And yeah, why I decided not to go myself, because I just don't think I would have been very clear. And I think it would have been a pretty stressful process to go through. And having written the book, I wanted to make sure it sounded good in an audio version. And I just think having a professional like Gavin doing it would have made sure it sounded a lot better than when if I did it. But thank you very much. Remember, please do remember, you can pre-order the book now. I'll leave the link again in the comments section below. It's available on Amazon. You can get it from WH Smith on pre-order as well, and other retailers. And the book comes out on August 31st, so we're not far away now. And there will be some launch events going on. So if you're in and around London on the 31st of August, the day the book comes out, please try and keep that evening free. And you want to come down and be part of a big event launching the book, having them signed and things like that, there will be details of an event coming soon. So please do pencil that into your diary if you're around London and you want to get involved in that book launch of Revolution, the 31st of August in the evening, in and around the North London area. Pretty close to the stadium, let's put it that way. But thank you very much for joining me, everyone. Anything you agree with, disagree with, please do let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll try and get some of you involved in tomorrow's episode. Until then, have a very good day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.